understand something, Benedict. I like my work. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Vincent's brother.
We're twins.
That's right.
You're fired.
You tell your brother he messes with me, he messes with my whole family!
I'll admit, that intro is a bit harsh, but that was how I felt after playing Quake 2 for the first time. With Quake 2 sharing the name of the first game, but being nowhere near as good, I thought. A couple years ago, I had a weekend where I had nothing going on, so I decided to give Quake a try for the first time. And I got absolutely sucked into Quake. I started Quake 1 after work on a Friday and finished it on Saturday, and then rolled right into Quake 2 on Sunday. The first Quake game knocked my socks off and had me so excited to play Quake 2, and I was left disappointed not because Quake 2 is bad, but because I just wanted more of Quake 1. The atmosphere, levels, and cast of enemies just stole my heart, and I wanted more. When it came to Quake 2, the opening cinematic did have me fired up and excited to see a sci-fi twist of Quake, especially since I am generally a much bigger fan of sci-fi as a genre than I am of dark fantasy or the Lovecraftian genre that you can tuck the first game into. But Quake 2 just did not have that same feel as the first game, and as soon as an enemy ducked my shot, I was like, what on earth is this? Even with that initial disappointment, I just had to know what this game had to offer, and I burned through this entire game in 2 sittings. And then a few days later, I burned through the Call of the Machine expansion, the Reckoning expansion, and Quake 2 64 all in one day, which must have been a 12-hour gaming session. This reality had me confounded. I was disappointed in Quake 2 not being what I wanted, yet it still sucked me in for some of the longest single-player gaming sessions I had had in a long time. Fast forward to my recent playthrough of Quake 2 for the sake of this video, and the same thing pretty much happened. I tore through the game in just 2 sittings, yet again. And while coming in knowing what to expect, I enjoyed it a lot more this time. Comparison is the thief of joy. That's a quote I've said in the past on YouTube, and as much as I struggle to practice what I preach in saying that, I think heeding those words really helped me enjoy Quake 2 this time around while not wishing it was Quake 1. Alright, enough context. You came here to watch shit blow up, so let's blow this shit up. Quake 2 is not only a different setting and subgenre from the first game, but it comes with an entirely new cast of enemies, as well as a new arsenal of. You start off with just a pistol, and then quickly find a shotgun, which has quite a different look in this game. There's the super shotgun, machine gun, chain gun, rocket launcher, grenade launcher, and you can also throw the grenades themselves. Once I found the grenade launcher, I never went back to throwing the grenades, but I must say I love seeing his itchy trigger finger here, as he's holding a grenade in this clip. The BFG makes its triumphant return with a new appearance, but the standout weapons for me are the railgun and the hyper blaster. The railgun has this cool original design. It rips, especially at range, with its reload animation making it well suited for dipping in and out of cover. I really like engaging in a nice battle of dueling railguns with the enemy that boasts the same weapon. And then the Hyper Blaster has a nice original design as well, with its rotating muzzle that spins up, making this like a plasma chain gun that carries that rotation until the red sight of the gun lands back where it should be. It also has a projectile type of firing instead of hit scan that makes it satisfying when you're hitting shots while seeing the sweeping visual of the bullets. Pretty neat design if you ask me. The arsenal overall is great, providing both fresh and familiar faces while giving you a solution to any problem. So what about the enemies of Quake 2? Just like the arsenal, the cast of enemies is vast, with them all providing a different challenge. You have your classic fodder enemies that you can shred through. There's fish and mutant frogs, who operate similar to the fiends of the first game. There are flyers, who I actually love the design for, and always reminded me of Jara from Men in Black 2. We also have flying trash cans to deal with, and these other flying enemies named Icarus, which is always a sweet name for a flying character given the tale of Icarus. In Greek mythology, Icarus flew too close to the sun, and in Quake 2, Icarus flew too close to my gun. We got babes in this game named Iron Maidens, who I like to think look like Eddie, the mascot of the band Iron Maiden, and who wear an outfit that Kanye West would make his wife wear in public. The Strogg are very cool, with their half-man, half-machine designs that come in all sizes and wielding all types of weapons. They even go as big as fighting a literal tank as a boss, which was sweet, and so is the look of this arena. The enemies that I found most interesting are the Parasite Dogs, who are awesome with their retracting tentacle they use to drain your health. I also love how when you shoot them, they backflip like one of those toy dogs. Probably the coolest and most dynamic enemy are the brains, who have a shield and also a tentacle like the dogs. They can laser beam you or hit you with a tentacle, but their tentacle pulls you toward them. When they reel you in, they have a chest cavity of tentacles waiting for you. It's a creative and badass design from top to bottom. Even their dead bodies are sweet, with the tentacles draped out from their chest, looking like something from John Carpenter's The Thing. Ripping their shields with the Hyper Blaster just feels right, like taking out energy shields in Doom Eternal with the plasma rifle. Another unique use of tentacles in the Quake 2 enemies is the medic, who can use a tentacle to revive fallen enemies from afar. This is a great mechanic to add to the cast of enemies that definitely caught me off guard the first time, and restructures the hierarchy of who to attack first at a point in the game where you thought you had it all figured out. Last but not least is an enemy you encounter very frequently, but one that I love. That would be the Berserker. They are hyper aggressive and are most notable for their leaping attack that will send you flying and can create all sorts of chaos. These things are entertaining. They're like Forrest Gump, they never stop running, unless you dump a round of super shotgun into their chest and cause them to flip like one of the dogs. Look how pissed he looks as he lifts himself up. It is so great. I love their voice line just as much as I love absolutely folding them in half. They're good for a scare if they can sneak a dive bomb on you, or if they're creeping around a corner. And you never know where their impact can send you flying. Thanks for the nice vantage points, sucker. If we're talking vantage points, that means it's time to talk about the levels. A lot of the game takes place within the facilities on Stragos, where you'll see plenty of these slat walls, but there is plenty of scenery changes, going down to a prison cell block, going outside to swim through a cavern, or appreciate the magnitude of the big gun accompanied by the colorful skies on Stragos that will have you craving a tequila sunrise. If you don't agree, the sky here is literally a tequila sunrise, and I bet you didn't even notice. Inside the facilities, there's nice dark lighting and great use of shadows when the lighting is just right. Also inside the facilities, we will see plenty of creative ways they dispose of these poor sons of bitches down here. The emulsifying flesh press is a great name. This Iron Maiden crucifix is legendary. Shout out Iron Maiden for the third time this video. And this poor bastard got like Goldfinger tried to do to James Bond.
Do you expect me to talk?
The impressive thing about the levels in this game is the many ways you can interact with them. From the very first room, there are barrels you can explode to find your first secret area, or barrels that can open up a passage in the floor. You can interact with the environment to trigger environmental kills, which in this case were a layup, or here where you gotta be a little more cunning. And man, does that lava pop. In addition to the hazard of lava, we also have a ton of lasers. We got laser grids like Resident Evil, we got laser light shows, we got lasers blocking pressure plates, and we got a laser drill, leading us to our next area. They give us plenty of different ways to keep things more interesting than just using boring old keys to get to the next area. Things like the laser drill or calling in an airstrike to be able to progress. And when you do need to use a key, it's something cool like using someone's head as a key, or this pyramid key that opens up a path beneath a pyramid. In between levels, we see an overall map showing our progression like the first Doom game did, but the experience in Quake 2 feels much more like a cohesive expedition through the Stragos facilities, with levels that connect to one another all the way up to the Strag Leader's palace. Along our journeys, the levels, or units as they're actually called, that were most memorable for me are the Big Gun, because how could you not love that name? That sounds like a 5-year-old came up with it. Our first boss battle is here against the Hornet, and we get the action movie sequence of running away as the Big Gun explodes. A simple but eventful level provides big fun at the Big Gun. I also really enjoyed this secret level out in space. I had no idea we were in zero gravity until I finally jumped, which was a nice surprise, and it certainly makes sense given what we see out the windows. Zero gravity is a nice paradigm shift that can provide some badass combat and some good old-fashioned goofing around. We'll swat another Hornet boss while we're here, and complete a clever sequence that makes you think outside the box a bit to complete it. But my favorite area in Quake 2 would be the Palace. A unique change of scenery with banners along the walls that look a lot like Paramount's office in Germany. Fighting under Nazi-looking banners hits different and feels like a nod by id Software to their Wolfenstein roots. I mentioned in my Quake 1 review that I love how they worked skulls into the walls. Well, in this game, they outdid themselves by having skulls with the Quake 2 logo wrapped around it. How badass. Finally, we arrive at the final level, which is just a boss battle. It's an awesome looking boss in an awesome looking arena. It comes with 2 phases and is no slouch with its ability to fire a BFG at you. The thing that does make the boss fairly easy is that the game makes sure you have a quad damage power up for the fight, and you can just melt the boss with that activated. But I don't play these games for boss battles, so despite it being easy, this final boss had me absolutely satisfied. On our way out, we'll check out the Hall of Developers and this Strag here, looking like Jabba the Hutt posted up with a couple baddies by his side. This guy's a legend. Coming face to face with this legend does mark the end of the game, but there is one more thing I need to discuss, and that is the music. Unfortunately, my judgment on the music is clouded, and the reason I say that is because the music was totally lost in the mix throughout my playthrough. It didn't dawn on me until I was toward the end of the game, but the sound effects of the game seem to largely drown out the music. If you listen here, for example, there's just constant explosions going on in the background. I was also playing on PS5 where the sound effects of your gun come out through the controller, and if you think about it, the music is usually hitting in moments where you're firing your gun. So the music just did not have a fair chance to make a considerable impact on me during this playthrough. The standard audio settings for some reason have the music set way lower than the other audio, which I did end up adjusting, but it wasn't until late in the game did I think to do so. Going through these clips, there are some rocking songs in the soundtrack. And I did also go back to record this clip here with sound effects turned off just to make sure I show appreciation for this song that totally rips without the sound of intergalactic warfare drowning it out. That is one badass track. Like I mentioned at the top of the video, I have definitely come around on Quake 2 and really enjoyed my time with the game. The things that annoyed me on my first playthrough, like enemies ducking shots, have honestly become something I enjoy. Seeing enemies hit the deck and then shoot at you from the ground mixes things up, and I assume was also groundbreaking when this game was released. I'll always be a Quake 1 guy if I had to choose, but Quake 2 and watching enemies flail their legs around like a dying animal has absolutely grown on me. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you sticking around to listen to my nonsense. If you liked the video, please feel free to check out my channel where I have videos up of every mainline Doom game, as well as Quake 1 and some other games. Alright, my fellow Bittermans, I'll see you on the next one.